Matt. Welcome back to another version of Tech Time.
Yeah. You know what's funny, Dan, is we were together in Los Angeles last week when I was there for work, and we were talking about how we were going to record in the same room, and wouldn't it be cool instead of recording across the continent from each other? But we were just so busy, weren't we? Like it was a crazy week.
We were having too much fun getting to know Jeff Goldblum. Remember that?
Yes. My
So,
kids instantly knew who he was when they saw the
really?
pictures. Oh yeah. Kaylin was like, "That's Jeff Goldblum. He's from Jurassic Park." And Sharon was like, "How do you know this?" And Kaylin's like, "I watch it daily."
Well, I figured if you're going to come to LA, you've got to meet someone famous, right?
That's right. That's right.
The funniest thing about meeting him was when I went up, I tried to crack a joke from when he did that Saturday Night Live episode with Will Ferrell, and he
Yes.
did not get the reference. It was
No.
really awkward.
Yeah.
Okay, I realized that was 20 years ago for you, and I watch it daily. So
I watch it daily. And we're probably quoting not Jeff Goldblum. We were quoting oh, what's his name? The other guy in it.
Will Ferrell.
Farrell, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was great. Well, good times were had, and it's too bad we didn't do a live session. Maybe next time we'll do it.
Next time I'm in LA for work, or you're in Edmonton, or we're at the cabin. We could do it at the cabin. That would be fun.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Now we've missed a whole bunch of technology stuff to talk about, so I
Yeah.
want to just jump right in here and talk about Bitcoining. So you guys may have noticed that Bitcoins are starting to go on the rise again. So I bought $120 worth of cryptocurrency last year at the height, which is bad. I mean, you're always supposed to buy low, sell high, right? I bought high,
How much is it?
and well, it went all the way down to $18.
15 from
But
120.
this week, it's really been exploding, and
Yeah.
now I'm up to $38.
Ooh, from
So
38.
just imagine if you had invested like $100,000 2 weeks ago, it would be almost worth double. And so I was going through and trying to figure out, why is Bitcoin so popular all over again? I mean, nothing's really happened.
Yeah.
And from what I can tell, it looks like somebody rich bought a whole bunch of Bitcoin 2 weeks ago and just started the panic of everyone starting to buy in again.
Oh,
So, in
nice.
other words, there's no industry backing this up. There's no new
Well,
technology.
sell.
Yeah, it's just people
Get your
watching the
38
market.
bucks.
Hey, I'll take my $38 and hopefully that'll just keep going up. So, the reason why I bring up Bitcoining is because China actually wants to ban Bitcoin
Mm.
and Bitcoin mining. So this is pretty interesting because China's state planner wants to eliminate mining in the whole country, according to a draft um, that was produced last week. So China is actually the world's largest market for computer hardware designed to mine Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
Ooh.
So I don't know if you've seen this before, but not only can you mine cryptocurrency on your computer or your laptop or a server, you can actually purchase little boxes off of Amazon that you can plug into the wall, put in your Wi-Fi password, and it will literally just do
Just
that.
mine. Yeah.
It will mine any kind of cryptocurrency you want.
Yeah.
And of course, there are certain boxes that are much more effective because it really runs hot. And because you're probably paying about 12 cents a kilowatt hour here in the United States, you have to somehow beat that. And so it's been pretty tricky. Anyway, China says that they want to stop it because they're worried about it being unsafe. So
Yeah.
maybe those boxes could burn something down. They worry about it wasting resources like their electricity and then finally polluting the environment, which I thought was funny
Polluting how?
because, well, with all of the electricity that's used to mine Bitcoin.
And if the electricity is coming from coal, then yes. And I can also see like China is an energy hungry country. It's still growing. I like referring to China to the United States in the 1950s and 60s, where everybody was just starting to get booming after World War II.
Yeah.
And it was this big move from the rural areas into the cities. It was cities just hit this massive boom of growth. And so China's kind of in that same situation right now. they've slowed down, but they're still booming. They're still, people are moving to the cities like crazy. And so, yeah, they need their electricity. And if you really look at it, what are you getting out of Bitcoin mining? Like, what are you getting? Are you getting an asset? No, you've got a formula that's now created something that's virtual that is only given value depending on how people feel about it. And this week's a great example. It doubles in a week because somebody rich bought a whole bunch and everybody saw an uptick and they're like, buy, 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 buy. Like,
Well,
it's
my Bitcoin doubled, and it wasn't just Bitcoin. I have Ripple. I have like a whole slew of different kinds. I
Ethereum
think,
and yeah.
yeah, I think Bitcoin only went from like 4,000 to 5,000, but that's still a big jump for Bitcoin.
Yeah. Did you know
Now,
that Venezuela got into mining their
well,
own
they
coin? Yeah.
should, because what do they use for their currency again? It's awful. I was
Well,
talking.
they're calling it the Petro. So their cryptocurrency is going to be called the Petro. And I think it just crashed and burned before it even started because the entire world was like, forget it. You don't have anything you can base this on. You're trying to, I mean, it's an interesting idea to put a country's currency totally crypto. But when there's no evidence behind actual formulas, actual mining, like where's it coming from? I think it's just somebody in the Venezuelan government going, 24 billion petros today, right? Like there's no control over it. It's just like printing money. It's the same thing. So if it's not real cryptocurrency, where it becomes scarcer and scarcer and this like there's a whole concept behind cryptocurrency that I think Venezuela was missing.
I think you're right. However, their dollar or whatever it is, I'm not sure if it's a peso or what, it has been doing so terribly. The
Oh
rate of
yeah.
inflation in that country is insane. And basically, don't even have a savings account because your money's worth nothing. And it's probably smarter for people to have their money in houses and farms and petroleum things that they can sell, instead of
Yes.
just a savings account. Anyways,
It
China.
is called the Venezuelan Bolivar.
Oh, the Bolivar.
Yes.
Nice. Well, China's saying that they're going to try to eliminate Bitcoin mining, and this could be huge, and this could actually affect the price of Bitcoin because so many people mine in China. If it
Yes.
becomes outlawed, maybe that recent boost we saw will collapse.
Interesting. I know China does a lot of that. And didn't you have an article that you were saying something like 10% of the world's energy is currently mining Bitcoin?
It would not surprise me, but that's been a while since we've talked about Bitcoin. We're
Yeah.
on like podcast 33 right now. We'd have to go way back.
So nobody quote us on that, but we should definitely see if somebody's done a recent study of how much of the world's electricity is going towards crypto mining. I mean, that's just fascinating that there are that many assets. I know there are huge farms. There's one down in southern Alberta. I believe it's around Medicine Hat. And I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars they put into this, and it's just pure crypto mining. And,
Cool.
yeah, and tons of electricity. It's right near Sheerness, which is a coal electricity plant.
Funny.
So,
It's
yeah,
just using all that coal to turn it into cryptocurrency, huh? Well, let's change things up. I wanted to talk about the Samsung Galaxy S10 fingerprint
yeah.
sensor. So
This
you
one,
know how
big
this
fan.
one is actually using like audio waves to figure out the fingerprint, and it's supposed to be really, really
It's like a
sophisticated.
3D model of your fingerprint.
Yeah, well, it's actually been fooled by a 3D printer.
Hmm.
So, a Galaxy S10 user has managed to fool the in-display fingerprint reader on his smartphone. In their post, they outlined how they did it. So, he took a picture of his fingerprint on a wine glass. So, get a dirty wine glass, put your fingerprint on it. Then he processed it in Photoshop and made a model using 3D Studio Max. And then that allowed him to take the lines in the picture and turn it into a 3D version.
So
Then
here's
he
the
print,
question. Yes,
yeah.
keep going.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Then he prints it out on his 3D printer, which took 13 minutes, and he was able to put that 3D printed fingerprint on the sensor. The audio sensor thought that it was his finger, and it opened it up.
I wonder, like they call it 3D mapping of the grooves on your finger, but I don't really think it is because he literally pulled off a fingerprint from a wine glass, right? That's not 3D. That's not giving you grooves. It just shows where the grooves are.
Right. So what he did was he put it in 3D Studio Max, which is kind of like AutoCAD. Have you
Yeah,
ever used AutoCAD before? It's like
I
a
have,
3D, and then
but
he
it's
turned the fingerprint that was 2D, he just pulled it out and gave it depth. And that
yeah,
was
he
enough
just
to
gave it
fool it.
depth. But how much depth, right? That's the problem. It's not true 3D if you're just showing there's lines here, right? So this is the second generation fingerprint reader. The first was optical, this one's sound. And he definitely could fool it, but it's still far more secure than an optical one and far more secure than the optical facial recognition where you can just have a video of somebody's face, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it is better, and it's funny
yeah.
because people could pull their fingerprint off of a tape before and fool the old optical ones. Now
Yes.
this ultrasonic sensor is much better, but get this, he says that now he's refined it to the point where he can do the entire process in 3 minutes, and
Ooh.
he can get a remote fingerprint from other people that have put their finger on a wine glass. And so if you're James Bond and you're at one of those swanky
Yep.
parties where you need to open up a phone, you just get them to put their fingerprint on a wine glass, take a picture, send it to this guy. In 3 minutes, you'll have it busted open.
I'm telling you, Dan, in the future we're going to be licking our iPhones. It's going to be pure DNA. But then there's going to be people swabbing our mouths while we're sleeping.
Well, I guess the only thing they'd want off my phone is all that cryptocurrency for $38, right?
That's right. Oh, but
Yeah.
in the future it's going to be twice that. You're going to
Oh,
be
I
70.
mean, you never know. If China stops producing it, it'll be less. Okay, so tell me about Uber's plans to deliver booze in Canada.
Well, they already do it apparently in the United States, and it's not just booze. They're actually bringing their e-scooters to Canada. So that was one of the fun things we did last week. Is we went from what was it, Monica,
Santa Monica.
Santa Monica Pier, and we went all the way to Muscle Beach, and it's a long walk, and so we got those electric e-scooters, and it was interesting to me to see how much competition. I mean, there was Lime, there was Uber. I was on what was the one that I was on?
Bird.
Yes, I was on Bird. So there was those three main ones that were all over that stretch of beach, but then there were a few other smaller ones as well, and you had to link up your accounts. Some of them had dead batteries, but it was still a really neat way to get around quite fast. And it looks like they want to bring that concept to Canada. One thing I noticed about being in LA last week is that people were taking those scooters right on the street. I mean, at the end, you and I were trying to get to the restaurant before it closed, and we left the beach because there was some geo fences that were slowing us down to a crawl.
Yeah.
And then once we hit the street, both the Uber and the Bird just started flying. And it's fast and it's kind of a great way to get around a city. So I can see it being big news here in Canada. I don't see how well it's going to work with snow and slush.
Yeah,
Um,
ice would be really scary with those.
and it would wreak havoc on the batteries. But anyways, during the summers, it would be a great way to get around any major city, especially if you can take them on regular walking paths. So that's what made me interested to see this. So it looks like Lime has e-scooters already in Waterloo, Ontario. Bird is already looking to jump in. And speaking of jump's another one that we did see that was there.
Nice transition. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're bringing dockless e-bikes in. So let's start a little bit of a debate. We've had debates in the past. Do you feel like these things are littering the streets of Los Angeles, or do you feel like they're actually a benefit? I mean, it was nice to be able to just, oh, there's a couple abandoned scooters and take a picture of the code and then start riding away. Do you feel that they're a hazard because they're junky and they're gross, or do you feel like they're actually useful?
I like them. I think they look good. And if you noticed while we were there, they were always on the move, especially in those popular locations that we were at. Most of them, their batteries were full because people are incentivized to take them home and plug them in because they get paid. And so they're constantly moving, they're constantly being refreshed. I think the problem that you fall into is when the buzz and the popularity falls out, people are just going to leave them by the wayside and not use them, and they will be junky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I like to think of what niche do they fill? Well, they make movement in an urban area quite fast and easy and affordable. Now, we noticed Ubers were the most affordable out of the ones that we used. Birds
Yeah,
be the most expensive.
15 cents a minute for Uber.
Yeah, so that was pretty cheap. Um, so anyways, other things that they're doing is they're bringing Uber Booze to Canada, which is alcohol delivery, and apparently it's already in British Columbia, and it's tied to Uber Eats. So here in Canada, we already have Skip the Dishes, but I don't think we yet have Uber Eats other than in British Columbia. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. Uh, are you familiar with Uber Eats? Like, could you be an
Uh-huh.
Uber driver as well as an Uber Eats
I don't
delivery?
think so. Honestly, I've done it twice where I've ordered Uber Eats
Yeah.
and it looks like they're specifically for Uber Eats. Now, the positive thing, and I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think you don't need the latest car to do it.
Right.
Where if you're an Uber driver, your car has to be like 5 years old or something, right?
And a certain amount of insurance and there,
Yeah.
yeah.
So my Corolla is a 2010 and it's already too old to use for Uber, but if I was, wanting to do it, I could do Uber Eats because no one's driving with me. So I think there's less restrictions on it.
I'd like to see if, or talk to maybe some of our listeners if they're Uber drivers and to see if their hustle's helping them out. Are they doing it part time? I work with a guy who was out of work for a while and he did skip the dishes.
Oh yeah?
And he said it was really tough, like because it depended on how many orders he had at a time. It depended how close they were together. It depended what region he was in. And he said when he was down by the university, he could make lots of money because it was lots of little tiny jobs. And so he'd go and hit all the little tiny jobs, and then he would get all these little tiny tips, but he could do like 7 or 8 in an hour.
Right.
Whereas when he was in a richer more
Suburb.
suburban area, he was doing maybe 2 or 3 an hour, and the tips were bigger, but it just wasn't worth his time.
Right. You kind of have to be in a populated city to do it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
fascinating. Anyways, it's all coming to Canada, and I'm looking forward to see how it goes. I like the scooters. I thought they were neat. I'd love to see them in urban areas, especially for getting around downtowns. And you know how Edmonton's built on top of the river valley. Going up that river valley is nasty. So if you could do it on a nice e-scooter or e-bike, I think that would be nice. So
And not dangerous at all, right? Going across that humming bridge on it.
that hummingbird
Ah,
is gone. It's gone. It no longer exists. And
what? I
yeah,
feel
we
like my
got
childhood's being ripped away from me.
yeah, well, it would have too if you were on a scooter and it was icy. I had a buddy who rode his motorbike all year round, even when it was like minus 30 and snowing, and he said you go on that bridge, the Humming Bridge. So for our listeners, it was basically just grading. So it was a metropolitan bridge
Uh-huh.
with grading, and so it would sort of jerk you left or right depending on how your tires were grabbing onto that grading, and
Oh
you make that
man.
getting slippery in the winter. And he was like, every time I crossed that bridge I took my life in my hands.
Jeez. It's probably good they got rid of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so have you heard of Cloudflare before?
I haven't, but I see their VPN service. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the claims they're making and then help me understand how that's even possible?
Yeah, so it's a new VPN service that claims that it won't slow you down. So you use VPN a lot in Canada, and we've talked a lot about it before, but you've even made the comment before as we're doing the podcast, maybe I should turn off the VPN to make sure that Skype goes as fast as possible, right? Because you
Yes.
might notice that it can slow it down. So it's actually trying to speed things up. The service is called 1.1.1.1. And it's going to aim to speed up both your computer speeds and your mobile data speeds. So the way how they're going to do this is they're going to resolve DNS queries faster than your current mobile network does. So if you've heard of OpenDNS before, it kind of does the same thing. So a name server, say you put into your web browser google.com, it
Yes.
has to go look up what numbers are associated with google.com. It could be like 192.3.4. Whatever it
Yep.
is. So it has to go somewhere and figure out what google.com is and then come back, and that slows everything down. And so this name service query is going to be faster. And the cool thing about it is they're bringing it to mobile networks too.
So are they
So
doing it like a whitelist? Is that what it is? If you're going to google.com, they might say, "Oh, google.com's clean. Just open it up and let it throttle and fly." Is that what it is?
I don't
Whitelists
think
of
it has
clean
to
sites?
do, no, I don't think it has to do with good and bad sites. I think it just has to do with being a lot more efficient, figuring out where to go when you tell it what you want.
Mm,
They said, and I quote, "We wanted to build a VPN service that my dad would install on his phone." And so that's Matthew Prince, the CEO of
yeah.
Cloudflare. So if you'll tell him that it'll make this connection more private, which most VPN services do, and secure, he'd never do it. But if you tell him that it makes his connection faster, makes his phone battery last longer, and make his connections more private, then that's something he'll want to install. So think about all those advantages. We all want more battery power. We all want our internet to be faster, and we want it to be more secure. So
Yeah.
Cloudflare is really claiming a lot of bold things here. So mobile phone users can begin signing up for the service, dubbed as Warp, through Cloudflare's mobile app. And the app again is called 1.1.1.1, and that happened last week. So the technology that it uses is called Warp Fast, and that it was actually a protocol invented by Google.
Mm.
And so if you remember back in the day, do you remember connecting to the internet when we were kids and it would always say TCP IP connection?
Yep. Yep.
So that's an old protocol that was made and introduced back in 1981. So that made the internet reliable and connections possible. But when Google worked on QUIC, that's their new version of TCP, it really sped things up. And so Cloudflare uses it and they've called it Warp Fast. And basically, to sum this up, if you're looking for a VPN service that's fast, that you can use on your phone, that really will speed up your connection, try it out. I'm curious, when you're finally done your current VPN, maybe you could look into this and see if this is something that would be faster for you, Matt.
Do they have free trials? Do you know? Have you been checking them out yet?
No, that would be really cool. It'd be really cool to see if they have free trials. And actually, I don't really need a VPN service since I'm in the States. Only for security would I want it. But
Yeah.
now that I'm hearing that it's speeding things up, this is actually something that I'd like to try. And it'd be cool to talk about it on the podcast. So if any
Yeah.
of our users have tried it, please let us know on YouTube or send us a tweet and let us know what you think about Cloudflare, because this is really something that interests me.
Fascinating. I might check it out. And if they have a free trial, that's when I guarantee you everybody who's going to try it is going to be going and checking their speeds
Yes.
as soon as they hook up to it. Because I find that I use NordVPN, and often I find it's pretty fast, and I don't notice a difference. But every now and then, it can really be slow, and so I just disconnect and reconnect, and away I go. But I've streamed all kinds of streaming on it. Netflix, though, most of the time Netflix knows that I'm using it,
Oh,
and they block it because you
no,
do
they can tell.
geolocations. Yes,
Oh my
yes.
gosh.
But they do have NordVPN as certain servers that I should try again to see if I can pretend that I'm from Finland or other places. And they claim that their servers are still good to geolocate and pretend that you're from somewhere else so that you can access the content from that country. So I'd like to see that and perhaps try it again. But this warp, I mean, if it speeds things up, and I'd also like to know their pricing structure, because a
And if it,
lot of VPNs are fighting for the dollars that are out there.
well, and they're expensive too, right? Like $100 or more a year. Don't you pay that for Nord?
Mine was $100 for 3 years.
Oh, that's pretty good, Matt.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a special, and it was $100 for 3 years. And I think most of the big ones will be somewhere around there. So it's like $33 a year. Some of them might be a little more, a little bit less, but then the cheaper ones may not have geolocation options or P2P servers or as many different servers as they have. So I went with one of the bigger ones, which was Nord, and I've been really happy with it. And I use it all the time.
Oh
I,
yeah.
I use it a lot more than when I started out. So when I first started out, it was like, oh, I'll just turn it on if I'm going to try to stream something or pretend I'm in the United States so I can watch American Netflix. Well, now whenever I do my banking, I use it. I
Good,
turn it
good.
on.
Yeah.
And usually I'll just turn it on and just leave it on. And then I don't worry about it. So then I don't worry about my banking. I don't worry about my emails. And I do a lot of different banking. I don't know about others, but I bet you most of us will look up our credit card statements online as well as our banking
All the
online. And
time.
we've got our air miles and, all the different points that we're collecting. All those things, you're secure if you're using a proper VPN, but not the ones out of China, like the
Not
ones
the
that we reported on
That's right.
last time. It was
We
like,
should call this the VPN podcast now, right? We've talked so
hey,
much about it.
they actually sponsor a lot of people. Like, if you try to learn about VPNs on YouTube, it's so biased.
Oh
So biased.
yeah.
I was researching VPNs. There were so many. Oh, you got to try this one. And I got to tell you, Nord was one of the worst ones for watching it. And then just click on my affiliate link down below. And I was like, okay, I know that this one's sponsored by Nord. So I had to try to find unbiased reviews, and that's why I came to the conclusion of purchasing Nord because it fit what I wanted the best. And it's great because it also works on my Android box, my Shield, and I just turn it on. It's so easy for my kids to turn it on, and away they go. So,
Cool.
anyways, there you
Well, we are
go.
not sponsored by Nord.
My
Uh,
unbiased.
this is an unbiased podcast.
And I'm looking forward to trying Cloudflare because if they're as secure as other VPNs and they can speed things up, they may be worth more than the $33 I
Yeah.
pay a year.
No, that's true. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is Fortnite.
Yes.
So actually this week, Prince Harry was in the news for telling everyone that they should not allow their kids to play Fortnite, which I thought was funny, um,
Yeah.
because it's
Like,
such a popular game.
he doesn't even have a child born yet.
Well, it's on the way, and it won't be playing Fortnite.
Are you a
Um,
royal watcher?
yeah, I'm actually not. I just thought it was funny. I was going through our articles this week and noticed he had mentioned this. But even though it might be a virtual game, this article says that it's having real life dangerous effects. So kids aren't sleeping, they're not going to school, they're dropping out of social activities. And a lot of kids have stopped playing sports so that they can play this. So
Mhm.
that's Michael Reich, a pediatrician and director of Clinic for Interactive Media and Internet Disorders. And so that's at Boston's Children's Hospital. So Fortnite Battle Royale, as you guys know, is a cartoon multiplayer shooter game. It's kind of like James Bond. Do you remember when we played that on the Nintendo 64 as
Oh,
kids?
GoldenEye. GoldenEye
GoldenEye.
was the
Yeah.
best. Yes. My dreams
Okay.
were
This.
full of ding, 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 ding,
Ding, ding,
ding,
ding,
and my
ding, ding.
first person shooter going around in my little box. Yep.
Oh yeah, were you Xenia on a top every time?
I I'm trying to remember who I like to play. Odd Job. Anyways, it was a lot of fun. In fact, my bachelor party. Did you come
Uh-huh.
to that? You were there, weren't you? We
I
did
don't remember.
we
I think
did
I was like
airsoft
12.
and
Yeah.
we played GoldenEye. It was 1999, so it was a while ago. But we played GoldenEye and then did airsoft guns outside and ate pizza. That's how we rolled back in '99 for
Hey, this
bachelor.
sounds great. Well, today they're rolling with Fortnite, which is the same kind of thing,
Yeah.
but it's having a huge effect on kids, this article says. So, one example, we have one kid who destroyed the family car because he thought his parents had locked his device inside. He
Oh,
took a hammer to the windshield. Okay, so a year and a half after the game's release, Rich's accountant is one of the many that describe an obsession so intense that kids are seeing doctors and therapists to break its grip. In some cases, kids are losing so much weight because they refuse to stop playing to eat that doctors initially think they're wasting away from physical disease. The stress on families has become so severe that parents are going to couples counselors, fighting over who's to blame for allowing Fortnite into the house in the first place. So the Fortnite creator, he says he sees Epic Games becoming as big as Facebook or Google.
no.
So
It's
I
a
don't
flash
think
in the
so either.
pan. It's a flash in the pan. And okay, so let's debate this. Um, this isn't new. In my opinion, this isn't new. Fortnite doesn't have a magical formula that makes it any more exciting than World of Warcraft was, or the
Black
game.
Ops or yeah.
Right, or Farmville, right? Like there's always the latest game that everybody's playing. So I don't think we should really say, well, it's Fortnite's problem. I mean, sure, Battle Royale is exciting, but it's not the first Battle Royale. It's not the last Battle Royale. It's the one that everybody's playing now because they like their little dances and the customization, but there's gonna be another one. So really, is it Fortnite or is it video?
Human nature.
Yeah,
It's human nature.
and being addicted to video games. I mean, there's no question there's addiction involved. Now, are you addicted to Fortnite or are you addicted to video games? And if Fortnite wasn't around, would you still be wasting away playing something else? So, I don't know. Is Fortnite a better game? You could argue that perhaps it is. Or is it more addictive? You could argue that perhaps it is. But I think the problem is more with video games. I was just talking with Sharon about a mutual friend of ours. He used to be one of the Boy Scouts that I was a leader of, and he just got married, and it's really stressful on his marriage because he just stays at home and plays video games. I'm not sure if it's Fortnite. I wouldn't be surprised if it was, but it's escapism.
Yeah, it's an escape.
Yeah, and that's what he's doing. He's in university. He's doing a bachelor's of engineering, and like he chose I think he's mechanical engineering.
It's a hard major.
It's a very hard major, and he just got married, and like it's all these stresses, right? And so he's just sitting there, he's dropped out of school, and we have family members who have recently dropped out of school, and we heard rumors that they're playing Fortnite. So,
oh, you'll have to tell me who that is after this is done.
So, is it Fortnite? Or is it being addicted to video games? Is it escapism? I know lots of marriages. We had one article that we read probably like 4 or 5 months ago where it was talking about marriages are currently referencing. It was Fortnite. They were referencing Fortnite as a reason for divorce.
Yes, that's right. We did do that.
So maybe it is Fortnite. Maybe my argument that it's just video games and the next video game will be just as bad.
They code cocaine somehow into it. They weave it in there.
I've played Fortnite just briefly. It's not like just try one and you're addicted for life.
Well, that was pretty fun. If you guys have any comments on video game addiction or internet addiction, please let us know on Twitter or on YouTube. And as always, please do us the big favor of rating us 5 stars on the iTunes store or wherever you listen to podcasts.
I'll catch you next week.